Okay, we are here again, our second night here in Vernon Baptist Church in the city of Hurricane, West Virginia. Hi, my name is Avion Israel, the super guy. If this is the first time that you encounter my channel, I invite you to subscribe, hit that notification button, so every time I upload new videos, you will be notified. So we continue in our second night. We will be going through different sites in the land of Israel regarding the ministry of Jesus. So stay tuned and do not go away. We are right back. Yeehaw! All right, yeah. 1,000 more times and then West Virginia. I just need to check.
I'll teach him the Mountaineer fight song for you.
All right, it's good to be back. Thank you for coming. It's part of the unpredictable weather you have here. Thank you for really, I'm very glad to see you all. So for those who are just seeing me for the first time, okay, my name is Marcos and I came all the way from Jerusalem. I'm really glad and very pleased to be here and see all friends and all friends too. No, okay. But yes, so if you weren't here yesterday, so we've been doing some of the sites that we have in Israel related to the ministry of Jesus. Now, I like what Pastor Ron, we were talking Sunday regarding the title, Revival. As we were talking and chatting about it, because often we think of revival of bringing the unsafe into the church. But what about those of us who are within the church and we also need to revive our faith? So it's something to ponder about. So some of the pictures that we are going to be looking at, if you were here yesterday, were taken from the book that I published on Jerusalem. There's a copy just to look at because we don't today. You can have a look, and if you're interested, there's a card there. With, if you go to my YouTube channel, there's a video that speaks about the book, and if you want to, you can get it through Amazon. So it's there. All the pictures have never been edited yet, because I'm working on a second book. So you will be the seconds to see those pictures, because already the people from Bell already saw them. Okay? So let's start there with our first. One second, I forgot my answer. So we're in Jerusalem, and I mentioned to you yesterday that Jesus only performed 2 miracles in Jerusalem. That's it. We spoke number 1 yesterday when we were in the pool of Siloam, the miracle of the blind man. What is that thing? The second one is here in the pool of Bethesda. As a tour guide, it is hard kind of to have just one favorite place. It's really, really, really hard for me to choose it. Because I have a lot of places that I love in the land of Israel, but also within Jerusalem. But this one is special. Yeah. Is it me who's doing this? No. It's like having many children, right? Which one is your favorite? Is it the boy or the girls? Right? It's hard to decide. Right? So they have a lot of. I don't know what is that now. He always says. But so we are here in the pool of Bethesda, so you have an idea. Today is within the city walls. All right.
We're bringing you up.
Okay. Sorry for that.
It's a sign.
Oh. Alright, so I'll carry on to the again as well. So, today, if you come to Jerusalem, it's within the city walls. In the time of Jesus. Okay. In the time of Jesus was outside the wall. So we are going to read the passage that is related to this second miracle within the book of John, the Gospel according to John, chapter 9. Now, as Jesus passed by, he saw a man who was blind from birth. And his disciple asked him, saying, Rabbi, meaning teacher, who sinned? Am I reading the right chapter? Yeah, so that was yesterday's chapter. Sorry for that. It's chapter 5. My mistake. I just left it. Okay. So it's chapter 5. After this, gotta pay attention every time you read the start. After this means that something else happened before that. After this, there was a feast of the Jews. We don't know which feast he's talking about at this point. And Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem at that time, by the sheep gate, a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda or Bethesda, having 5 porches. And this lay a great multitude of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool, and he stirred up the water. Then whoever stepped in first, after the stirring of the water, was made well of whatever disease he had. Now a certain man was there who had an infirmity for 38 years. And when Jesus saw him lying there, and knew that he already had been in that condition a long time, he said to him, do you want to be well? The sick man answered him, Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool where the water is stirred up. But when coming another steps down before me. And Jesus said to him, Rise, take up your bed and walk. And immediately the man was made well. He took up his bed and walked. That day was the Sabbath, Saturday. The Jews therefore said to him who was cured, It is the Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry your bed. And he answered them, He who made me well said to me, Take up your bed and walk. Then they asked him, And who is that man who said to you, Take up your bed and walk? But the one who was healed didn't know who he was, for Jesus has withdrawn, and a multitude being in that place. And afterward Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, See, you have been made well. Sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon you. This is the word of the Lord. Now, this is one of those places that I like to ponder. I like to ask myself, why one? There's a multitude of sick people. And how many did he heal? One. Does he ask for it? No. And what a question. Do you want to get well? Seriously? What else can he want? A bigger house? A wife? A husband? Rich? Really, what? I mean, I'm lying down on the floor. You're going to ask me, what do I want? I want to be well. So the man didn't ask him to cure him. him, but he didn't know who Jesus was. I mean, he did not read his Facebook profile or read the Twitter. Jesus is coming to perform miracle in the pool of Bethesda. So we often think that everybody knew Jesus. No, everybody knew Jesus, especially in Jerusalem. And it always struck me because it reminds me what Moses said, and Paul repeated that in the letters to the Romans, when God said, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy. That is pure grace. You don't deserve it, but I will give it to you. This man was there for 38 years. Now, I'm looking, when I took the picture, I'm looking towards the east. This is east that way, because this is the dome of the church, and down straight north is where the altar is. And all churches, or 99.9% of churches in Israel, the altar is facing east, as well as the ruins of this one over here. Now, I always said this, in the Middle East, or in the Holy Land, the sanctity, the holiness of a place is never forgotten. People have memory. People remember. Sometimes for good, sometimes for not good. They don't easily forgive you there either. And we have this superstition that an angel was coming down from heaven, moving waters, and whoever went into the water first would get healed. That was the belief. That was a superstition what people believed back then. And then we have Jesus saying, you know what, there's no angel. I am the one who's going to do this. Get up, take out your mat, and go home. People did not forget this. Because by the 2nd century, when Jerusalem is rebuilt, again, if it's rebuilt because it was destroyed in the year 70 by the Romans will build right here. We go next. Let me see if we can show that one. Next. Good. Release water from time to time over here. So the church was built right here by the 5th century. In order to remember, I told you yesterday that churches were built to remember, to commemorate a miracle. So they will remember the miracle of Jesus. Next. Now, for those of you who went to the Israel Museum, or those who are in the future will go to the Israel Museum, this is what more or less the pool looked like. This is the valley of Bethesda. This is a valley that's running north, south. You can't see that valley anymore. The valley has been covered up. So this is the northern pool that will catch the rainwater. Jerusalem doesn't have a lot of water. And this is the southern pool. This is where the miracle took place. Next. And that's how this church looked from inside. Now, again, we're going back because history will repeat. Church is destroyed in the 7th century, rebuilt by the Crusader, which is the older church that we were looking at, the ruins. But this one is different. This got nothing to do with the miracle. This church is called Saint Anne, or Hannah. And who is she? Well, according to a gospel from the 2nd century, which is not in our Bible, she was the mother of Mary. And early Christians were commemorating her birth at that place. Next. Okay, so we leave Jerusalem, we go all the way north, and basically we are going to concentrate the rest of the passages on Matthew. So this place is home today. I need a bigger altar. Banias. And so Matthew 16. I know it's a very well-known passage by many of you. Today is a national park. These are the waters that you see here, coming from the Banyas River, the Jordan River, which is the most famous river that you guys know. It got nothing to do with the river that you have here in Bell, which we will have this amount of water in Israel. Seriously speaking. So the Jordan River is fed by 3 rivers, Banias, Dan, and Hasbani. Hasbani is in Lebanon today, and the 3 will converge into one major Jordan River and then go down into what you call the Sea of Galilee, which is actually a lake. So Matthew 16, verses 13. When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" And so they say, some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. And he said to them, "But what do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also said to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gate of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." And then he commanded his disciples that they should not tell no one that he was Jesus, the Messiah. In other words, do not put this on your walls and Facebook yet. Just wait after the resurrection, and then you can update it and tweet it and let everyone know. That's probably what we will say if he was here today with that, right? Now, Matthew, thank you, Matthew. It's a little bit more specific sometimes the other passages. He said that they were in the region. This place, in the time of Jesus, next, was the capital of Caesarea Philippi. What place is that? Well, for that we have to go back to read a little bit of the historian Josephus Flavius, who tells us about these places. Because when Herod the Great died, his kingdom was divided between his sons. Remember that he was ruling on behalf of the Roman. So Philip was given this area, which will be part of a full stop of the Ankerman and the Golden Heights. He said that he was in the region. It doesn't say that he was there. Why do we assume this? Well, guys, what you're looking at, that's a cave, which in the ancient time was the gate of hell. There was a temple, a Greco-Roman temple there, worshiping the god Pan, which is the one that is half a goat. His feet are like a goat, and the body of a man, and he's playing a flute. So he was worshipped there into the Christian era when all those temples were destroyed. Jesus, being an observant Jew, he wouldn't have entered a pagan city. He would have contaminated himself. We spoke yesterday about that. That's why he's in the area. However, as Protestant Christians, we go over there to remember this. Yes, there is no church there. There used to be one actually during the Christian era, but not remembering this confession, but something else, a different miracle. The woman who was bleeding, remember her, the passage? She said, if I can only touch just the garment, I'll be healed. Well, there was a church there You didn't see because it was in the parking lot outside. The ruins of that church is still there. It was destroyed in the 7th century, and rebuilt in the 12th, destroyed in the 13th. Now, there's a lot of Jewish talk in this by Jesus that for us is like, what? What are you talking about? He's giving Peter this authority. I'm giving you the key of the kingdom. And whatever you lose here will be lost up there. Whatever you tie here will be tied up there. What does this mean? I remember growing up hearing this, wow, you see, this means casting out demons, the deliverance. Has anyone ever heard this passage being interpreted this way? Yes, no? Never? Oh, I grew up with that pretty much. I wasn't a Baptist growing up, so Assemblies of God I came from. So, but then was Assembly of God, but never mind. That's what I heard growing up. And I used to scratch my head, really? I don't think so. Until I got to Jerusalem. What Jesus is saying to Peter is, I'm giving you the authority, right, to do halakha, which is in Hebrew word meaning law, like rules. Whatever you said, at the pillars of the church, you will be approved. And this has always been in Judaism. When rabbis have to deal with new issues, what do? Because it's not in the law of Moses. Are we allowed to celebrate the Sabbath this way or that way? It's hard to pronounce. Euthanism? Euthanism? Is that what it says? How do you pronounce it? When the patient wants to die and, if you want to. Euthanasia. Thank you. It's my Spanish accent, you see. You're West Virginia, don't understand. So the rabbi has to deal with that. Is that okay or no? These are many things. Is that okay? Well, I don't want to mention that issue because it's a big thing here in the United States, but you get the point, right? It's the same in the church. You have deacons. In other places they have elders. In other churches they have a bishop. And you correct me, you've been in the ministry for so many years and you have a body of deacons. When something out of the extraordinary come up, you must make a decision. You must pray, seek the will of the Lord, and lead you. And you have to make, yes or no? Am I right? Yes. So that's exactly what Jesus is giving Peter, that authority. Whatever you bind here will be bound up there. I give you that authority. Sadly, in church history, that authority many times was abused. But nonetheless, that authority is still prevalent today within the body of Christ. So that's what the talking is between Peter and Jesus, but basically more Jesus than Peter. All right? Next. So today, if you go to Caesarea Philippi by the area, but today's called Banias. Banias comes from the word pan, the god Pan. When the Arabs came to the Holy Land and heard about many of these names, in Arabic language you cannot pronounce P. You cannot say the letter P. So you have to what? Switch it to a B. Banias. Banias. They can't say Superman. They cannot. What do they say? Superman. So sometimes when they see me in the street, hey, Superman. I'm not wearing my Superman t-shirt today because, I'm supposed to, but they can't say. That's why the name remains. So these are niches that we assume that were used for to put idols in there. Next. This whole area right here was filled with different type of temple. even to Augustus Caesar. The Caesars were worshipped as deity. Next. And we go then on top of Mount Tabor. We did not go to Mount Tabor, but I took this picture from the air. It had to be done after 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because this is east. If you do this in the morning, it will be just all white, because the sun is right in front of you, and the wind is very, very strong. So we have a church over here, called Church of Transfiguration. We are once again, we are familiar with the passage. Right after this confession, we continue in Matthew. It's not with the 12, but Jesus met 3 friends. I wouldn't say friend, but his closest. I would say friend, yes, because the other 9 are not there. Who did he take? Peter, John, and his brother. Very important. Got something to show you. They had no idea what was coming. Now they said they went up into a mountain. Which mountain? What does the text tell us? Now, after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James. By the way, there's no James in the Bible. It should say Jacob. Just a bonus. And John, his brother, led them up into a high mountain by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, talking with him, with Jesus. Then Peter answered and said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, let us make here 3 tabernacles. One for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and suddenly a voice came out of the cloud, saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. I would be scared to if I heard something like that. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their faces and were greatly afraid. But Jesus came and touched them and said, Arise, do not be afraid. When they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus only. Now, as they came down from the mountain, Jesus commanded them, saying, Tell the vision to no one until the Son of Man is raised from the dead. And his disciples asked him, saying, But why do the scribes, meaning the guy who interpreted Scripture, say that Elijah must come first? And Jesus answered and said to them, Indeed, Elijah is coming first, and he will restore all things. But I say to you that Elijah has come already, and they did know that it was him, but did to him whatever they wished. Likewise, the Son of Man is also about to suffer at their hands. And then the disciples understood that he spoke to them of John. Now, they went up into a mountain. What mountain? Transfiguration, yeah. Well, the early Christians were asking the same question. What mountain? Some were saying Mount Tabor. Others were saying Mount of Olives. Others were saying Mount Hermon. This is a discussion that is going on in the 4th century, when pilgrims are coming into the Holy Land. They, as yourself, who went to the Holy Land, wanted to see where this event took place. Well, one of the church fathers, to figure out the argument, said, you know what? In Mount Tabor, and ain't no story. His name was Eusebius. And the church was built right there. Next. This is inside of the church today. It's a Catholic church. Yeah? It's guarded by the Franciscan. You go in, down. Because it was first built during the Byzantine period, destroyed in the 7th century, rebuilt in the 12th century, destroyed in the 13th century, built again in the 20th century. And that's what we have today. So right here is the altar. They are glass in which you can actually see the bare rock. According to the tradition, it's the exact place where the configuration took place. Did it? It doesn't matter. Because it's what it reminds us. Okay? So for early Christians said this is good enough for us, so we come here. I don't go there often with Protestant groups. We go more to barriers. Yeah? So it's not part of the tradition, the Protestant go visiting a church building. So that's how it looks there today. Next. We're back in Jerusalem. Did we enter? No, we did not. I don't think so. This place is called Pater Noster today. But the original name of that church that used to be there was Eleona. I didn't mention to you yesterday as we were looking the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, but there were 4 churches that were built in the 4th century by royal decree. The emperor himself, Constantine the Great, ordered 4 churches. Traditionally, later on, we attribute that to his mother. That's what Eusebius tells us. The church of the Eleona, the church of the Nativity, the one we suggested. The church of Manre, which is not there longer today, that's in Hebron, and the church of the Anastasis. We'll talk about that tomorrow. From these 4 churches, 2 are still standing. So here the name is called Pater Noster, which means, let me check your Latin. What? Our Father. According to the tradition, it is the place where Jesus taught his disciple the most known and famous prayer in the entire Christendom. Whether you're a Baptist, or an Armenian, or a Greek Orthodox, or a Syriac, we all know this prayer because we were taught since we were very little. So we do know that when Jesus used to come to Jerusalem, besides sleeping at, who was in Bethany? Lazarus, Martha, and Mary. They were his friends that supported his ministry. Jesus didn't stay, in the King David Hotel. We do have a King David Hotel in Jerusalem. Okay, that's my grandfather, father. Okay. No, he stayed with friends. They supported his ministry. The same way you have supported mine by welcoming me into your house. So, as I said, the church was destroyed in the 7th century, rebuilt in the 12th, after again was abandoned until in the into the 19th century. I always forget her name because it's in French. I'm not good at French. So, a princess, for real. I mean, she was a real princess. I know all daughters are, you have a princess, right? So, Baptist was a princess from France. Bought the property and built the church over here. They are Carmelite. They are no, Carmelite is another order within the Catholic Church. And they attempted to rebuild the Eleona church, but they ran out of money. So they couldn't do it. Next. Of the church is this. This is the original apse. Apse is the semicircle that you see in churches where the altar is. Sometimes you have one, which is the main one, 2, 3, 5, depending how big it is. And this is the original from the Byzantine period. According to the tradition, that cave is the place where Jesus told his disciple. What is beautiful is that when I go with a group, it doesn't matter how many times I go there. We remember this. we pray, our Father. Next. So, what did they do instead of rebuilding the church? The previous one, they decided to put our Father in different languages. There are more than 80 different languages, even in Braille? Braille? Yes. And different type of, there were different language, according to the language, it changes too. Even that. Okay, next. There she is. When the Bible speaks about Jerusalem, you always say, wow, I've been like 3 weeks away from it. It's a crazy place. I have a love-hate relationship with her. At times I love her so much, but at times I hate her so much. Really, it's there she is. The Bible, when they speak about cities and towns, is always in the female form. In Hebrew, there is no it. It's either male or female. Okay? When it comes to city, it's her. So I took this picture looking east. Here is the Mount of Olive. We don't have so many olive today. Right here is the Mormon University. We also have Mormon in Jerusalem, but they are not allowed to proselyte anyone. It is forbidden for them. Anyway, so next. So in the church now, I'm looking at the city from the south. This area will be the city of David. As you know, it's outside the city walls. We're looking into the Mount of Olives. This wide area that you see here, graveyard, Jewish graveyard. In the Middle East, you're not an island. You have to belong to a group, even in death. Next. And this is more like an artistic representation. So here is the what we call today Gethsemane, the Garden of Gethsemane. Next. And this is the chapel I want to talk about. It is called the Dominus Flevit, which in Latin means the Lord's wept. That I would like to read you guys from Matthew. It's here in Matthew. We're going to stay in Matthew. Chapter 23, verses 37. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who killed the prophets and stoned those who were sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. For I said to you, you shall not see me again until you say, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. For years I used to wonder what has to happen in Jerusalem for us to cry out, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. The city, next, city have gone through destruction after destruction. The year 70, completed, raised to the ground by the Romans. Women were raped, sold into slavery, baby being smashed against the wall. Yet, it did not cry out. And that's what made me start thinking, well, if something so horrendous as this did not make the city cry out, and that generation heard of Jesus, saw him, yet they didn't cry out. The city today is divided. We have Jews, we have Muslims, we have Christians, and all the Christians like one another, shamefully, but it's the truth. We are not a witness to the world. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So this is how it looks from inside. The chapel, love this chapel. Small, but I love it. I mean, it's like the architect put his heart in it, Antonio Barluzzi. And there is a head with a chick. And then you look through that window, there's this cross, and then there's the Dome of the Rock. Yes, you know that building because that building wasn't there at the time of Jesus. The architect just wanted you to imagine what Jesus has seen when he is looking into the city. Next. This is always, I always say, it's a bonus because it's within the premises of the area is owned by the Franciscan. These are replicas. The originals are in a museum. These are replicas. These are stone boxes called ossuaries. We know exactly how people were buried in the time of Jesus. We know how people were buried exactly 500, 600 years before the time of Jesus because we have their tombs all over the city. So this was the method used at that time, no anymore. Next. And this is the entrance into a tomb, an original tomb from the time of Jesus. Entrance is very small. I know that you in movies and places, especially on the resurrection, this gigantic rolling stone, right? Yes or no? True, because we found them. However, most of the stones that we found in Jerusalem and around the land were not necessarily round, but square, kind of like a cork, right? Now, on Resurrection Day, who saw Jesus first? Who's that? A woman. Sorry, ladies. But in the first century, you could not be a witness in a court of law. Your voice was void. It meant nothing. That's the reason the disciples did not believe her. Mary, are you okay? Did you eat something last night? Maybe. Because they didn't believe her. They have to go. So who goes? Peter and John. But John was faster. He outran him. That John goes inside? No. He just looked, oh, okay, he's not there, he's busy. Peter went inside just to double check. Right? And only saw the shroud and the piece of cloth that was on his head. Because from this time until today, the position of the woman was elevated. We have prophecies in the early church, Book of Acts. Okay? So basically, Jesus elevated the position of the woman. Do I hear an amen for the ladies? Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I don't only go to the third. But it is true. It is true. Next. Now, looking now the city east to west. And as I mentioned it to you, this is a graveyard, Jewish graveyard. There are two requirements to be buried there. One, you have to be Jewish. Two, you have to be very rich. This is very expensive to be buried there because they themselves are still in the expectation of the coming of the Messiah. Remember that most of them do not believe that Jesus is the Messiah. Therefore, he has to come. Although he tarries. And he has to come from the east. So that's why they buried there. Because the Messiah must come from the east. Because they want to be resurrected first. Location. 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 Even when you're dead. Okay? So next. So again, that's the model that you saw in the Israel Museum. This is Jerusalem at the time of Jesus. This is east, looking into the west. The platform where the temple used to be, the city of David right here, which as you can see was part of what I call Greater Jerusalem. Today, Jerusalem, this whole area, this is outside of the city walls today, since more or less 11th century. Next. Once again, look at the city from the south, how you can see City of David is outside and Mount Zion is outside. Next. Once again, this is what we were looking yesterday when we went to Puro Siloam here. People will go up, all the way up, singing and rejoicing because they're going to meet the invisible, the eternal. They will go through these gates. Next. Now, this is what it looks today. This is called the Southern Step. I do not believe we went to the, we went to the Southern Step? I don't remember the web. I believe you. And the only group that I'm trying to. Anyway, so here we have different layers of civilization from the 10th century all the way to the 16th century AD, like 10th century BC, 16th century AD. On this palm tree, there are some original steps from the time of Jesus, which were carved from the mountain himself. And I believe I told you when we were there that when the area was excavated in the beginning of the 70s by Benjamin Massar, he's already dead. He was an archaeologist, very old man at that time period. He had a special guest from the United States. 1969. Who was the first man who stepped into the moon? He got a special tour by Benjamin Massar himself. And when he was there, he asked him, would Jesus have walked through these steps to go into the temple? Benjamin Massar, we have to be very careful with how he answered. He said, well, listen, Jesus, because he didn't believe in Jesus, obviously, Jesus being an observant Jew coming down from the city of David, being purified himself, he will have to, and I quote, Nelson said, I am more excited to know that I'm standing where my master once stood than when I was in the moon. How many of you have been in the moon? Exactly. Next. And here we are. With this we're closing. We are what is called the upper room. So Jesus, I mean, if you want to later on, it's in Matthew 26:17-30. So Jesus said to his disciples, he said, go to that man and tell him what to celebrate, the Passover meal. He will know what to do. He will show you the room. And obviously that man knew Jesus. They go there, they have the last meal. But that room, although if you've been in Europe and see many of the cathedrals, you see that type of architecture doesn't come from that time period, but from the Middle Ages. To give you the, so that you can put the book to, the story short, Christians, whether they're Catholic, Protestant, except for the Syrian Orthodox, because they put the upper room elsewhere, they have their own upper room, but it's down. Remember, layers upon layers? So they said, this one's once up, now it's down. So I can start making sense to you. The place is important because it reminds us of the institution, what we call the Last Supper, the Eucharist, the Thanksgiving. This is what? When he took the bread, this is my body. Take the cup, not with grape juice, but the fruit of the body. This is my blood. Is it there or no? Once again, irrelevant. is what it reminds us. The washing of the feet. He took the position as a guy. This was a job done by servant. If I invite you to my house, your feet are dirty. You didn't have sneakers, you have sandals. And it's a dusty place. Trust me, even today. So I just saw one of my workers who you left his feet. What did he do? He wrapped a towel around his waist, washed their feet. A teacher will never do such a job. But what did he say? As I do this unto you, do it to one another. One commandment he gave us that evening. One. And we are so terrible in keeping it. What did he say? Love one another. Do we? No. You know why? Because he said, when you love one another, the world will know that you are my disciples. Give us one and we cannot keep it. Then we complain for 10 commandments. You kidding me? Just one. Love one another. We ought to love one another. It doesn't mean we need to be best buddies. Just love one.